Hello, everyone, and peace of God to all of you. I want to welcome you to this hour of the program called 1 Hour with Bernadette on Facebook Live through the Chaldean radio. This program will be every other Thursday on Facebook Live. It will be repeated next week on Thursday between 7 and 8 on Facebook. Tomorrow it will be replayed, excuse me, it will be replayed at 6:30 p.m. In the evening, and will be also replayed on Saturday at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. For those of you who were not able to see it on Facebook Live, you can always go back, of course, on Facebook and view it. I will begin every program with prayer and end with prayer, as we do usually. The purpose of prayer is to receive a blessing or blessings from God for our families and our community. I also want to thank God for the opportunity to spend this 1 hour with you weekly, every other week. I feel privileged and honored to serve you as my community. Today's prayer is called Jesus Help Us, from Priest of the Sacred Heart Monastery Daily Prayer. Jesus, you have called us to unity as husbands and wives to reflect your own community of love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Let us come to you, Lord, with humble trust and ask you, Jesus, help us. Our weaknesses, Lord, can lead us to damage this unity with negativity and fights. In all our fights, conflicts, doubts, perplexities, and temptations, Jesus, help us. In hour of weariness, trials, and temptations, help us, Jesus. When our spouse fails us and your grace alone can save us, help us, Jesus. When our hearts is consumed by failure and cannot see any way out of the marital conflicts we have, Jesus, help us. Be our source, excuse me, be our source of strength and comfort during our times of turmoil. Jesus, please help us. Restore our marital unity, that is the sign of your presence. Jesus, help us. When we are impatient and our crosses irritate us, please, Jesus, help us. We ask this through your most sacred heart, Jesus, and please, Lord, never forsake us. Today's topic is how to deal with conflicts in your marriage. For the next 3 programs, the topics will be, the first one is going to be how to deal with conflicts with your in-laws, especially mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. And the program will be in Arabic in 2 weeks. And then it will be repeated 2 weeks after that in English. The following one is appreciation and gratitude in your marriage. And then the third subject will be how to apply forgiveness in your marriage. So now we're going to look at limits for this program. And the purpose of them, again, is just so you understand what limitations I have and all of us have. And that understanding, I think it is important. So I will not be counseling during the show. I cannot resolve personal issues. I am here to open the conversation regarding life challenges and daily problems that confront all of us. There was a personal question that was written on Facebook last time, 2 weeks ago. And of course, I'm not going to address that issue, as I'm saying I'm not able to deal with a personal issue because I don't have the whole story. But generally, I'm just going to address that issue is, as I have been saying, it is so very, very important as husbands and wives to monitor the way we criticize and the way we talk to each other. Everything you do as husband and as wife, it impacts the marriage and it impacts your children and it impacts your health in a mighty way. Please, I am hoping that all of the skills and the information and education I'm providing, if one of you listeners and viewers starts applying some of this knowledge, there will be a difference in your marriage. And that is my prayer for you. Again, generally, if we have difficulties and problems in our marriage and some of this information is not sufficient and enough, that is where professional help has to come in. And I'm recommending that. It is really important that we address these issues. This is not just for one person. This is for all of us if we're running into problems. Problems don't go away. Again, I don't mean to suggest that your personal issues are not important, because I know they are very valuable, but they need to be evaluated by a professional counselor who's going to be able to address all of these issues. The second point is, please call me by my first name, and don't call me Dr. Bernadette. In America, a licensed clinical social worker like myself with a master's degree and license in California, and San Diego, is not called a doctor. It may be in other countries. I will also not be addressing political and or sexual preferences with same-sex relationship issues on this show. For the personal privacy of you, the viewers, I will not be addressing names of people or the country that you are making comments from. And so for those of you who are giving comments through Facebook, I will not personally respond to your comments via Facebook, but I will definitely do as I have done tonight. Please be aware that everyone will be seeing and viewing your comments on Facebook. If you are not comfortable with that, please do not put private information about your marriage and about your relationship. I will pick and choose which questions I will be answering, and I apologize in advance if I am disappointing some of you to not really respond to your questions. I will try to address the issues in the future and in future programs. I apologize again in advance if I am not responding to your questions. Thank you for participating, and I really appreciate and wish you all the best. And I want to thank you again for all your support, your comments, our viewers and listeners on Chaldean Radio and Facebook Live. We're also on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, there is a live stream happening as we speak now, and you click on Chaldean TV, and you'll see this program there as well. So for family members who don't have access to Facebook, you can actually go ask them to go on YouTube and click on Chaldean TV, and you'll be able to see a live stream of this program as well. So I want to thank you for your comments, your support again. It is greatly appreciated. This program will not exist if you are not there listening and watching it at the same time. So may God richly bless you. I believe it is extremely important that we are all, as listeners and viewers, we're all on the same page and you understand the purpose and boundaries of this program. So thank you again for participating, and hope that you become a regular listener. I will do my very best to see how I can bring subjects and topics that are valuable to your family, especially about any marital issues that our community is struggling. I am very open to your feedback, and I welcome it. Today's subject is a difficult one, but I'm hoping you will glean and take out of today's topic some information that are very valuable and important. And I'm bringing a lot of this information from Dr. Julian John Gottman's material, their information. As I've said before, I'm trained in their treatment, couples, John Gottman's therapy, and I am certified in their treatment. Also tonight, I'm bringing information from Alex Lutch. Now, some of his information in the book about happy marriages, and also information from Sue Johnson, Dr. Sue Johnson. So again, how to deal with conflicts in your marriage. And as we're looking at, again, this information, happy marriages are indicated often. It is very important sometimes and necessary for couples to fight, right? So when we use the word fight, it seems like, wow, fighting. We're not talking about dirty fighting. There is no sometimes you can fight dirty and it's okay. That is not what I'm meaning. What I am meaning is disagreements, arguing, issues that the two of you don't see eye to eye. There is nothing wrong with disagreeing, but it is really important that you want to be able to get to know each other, and this is how you know each other. Research has been done by Dr. Gottman in Washington, and he found that some types of fights strengthen a couple's bond. Again, I'm not saying fights that are negative, fights that are nasty, fights that there is name calling and screaming and shouting. That is not the kind of quarrels I'm talking about, right? There are quarrels where you feel free to be honest and honestly angry with each other, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're able to make your point clearly. That kind of quarrel is very valuable, and it is really important. According, again, to Dr. Gottman, couples who have healthy fights, what do I mean by healthy fights? That they are able to express. There is kindness, there is respect, there is efficacy. They are paying attention and feeding the marriage. If I am out of control, I close my mouth and I walk away, and I only come back and talk when I am calmer, when I am respectful, when I'm able to speak in a way that I am coming across as effective and helpful, right? And my motive is really clear. It's for the health of the relationship and not to make myself feel better, right? So if we want to make marriages stronger, and as time goes on, we need to pay attention to how we are responding to each other. Conflicts give a partner, and you as a husband and a wife, a chance to express your thoughts, express your feelings, how both of you are able to engage in the relationship, and it makes the relationship life a lot more richer. There is this interaction that is happening between the two of you, and you can be who you are in your marriage. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's in the way that you are conducting yourself, your attitude, your tone of voice, how you are respecting and one another is going to make a tremendous difference. So in marriages where couples avoid conflicts, this is where I see a problem often in the office. As I often share, a couple will come to me and they're living at home like roommates. They are not really able to discuss conflicts. They're avoiding them. As soon as one of them starts saying something, the other walks away and says, I don't want to hear you, slams the door and walks off. That is wrong. What you need to say is, I'm really feeling scared, or I feel intimidated. I cannot listen to this right now. I want to listen to you. Let me come back in a half hour or the next day, and I want to listen to you. That kind of discussion, there is nothing wrong with it. Because again, problems that are not addressed, just because we believe that if I don't really deal with this conflict, it's going to be no big deal, it's out of sight, out of mind, and that is not actually true. If we're not addressing issues and problems start growing and growing. And what happens inside, you start becoming resentful. You start escalating. You're going to find yourself on edge a lot more. And this is going to also cause a distance and a gap between you and your husband, between you and your wife. And what we want to do is we want to learn to navigate through our conflict, and that will result in a loving, happy marriage, right? So a key to healthy conflict resolution includes 3 important points. 1, flexibility. The second one is having faith. And the third one is friendship. And I had a whole program on how important it is to really be close and a friend to your spouse, to your husband or your wife. Flexibility, the reason flexibility is important, it helps us find solutions. It really helps your husband to really believe that his input is important. This is where our influence and where we influence each other comes in. Again, research has found that women are more influenced by their husband's opinion than men allow women to influence them. This is not stereotyping. This is research. I'm not bringing this from me, but I'm saying it because it is important as a husband for you to also keep in mind that if your wife is stating an opinion, and if you're flexible to really be moving and navigating the problem and listening to what she is saying and taking it inside and also adjusting to it, that is going to help your relationship a lot more. That flexibility allows the marriage to really be much more stronger. A marriage without flexibility is going to break, right? So if we're stubborn and I have to have my way or the highway, eventually that kind of relationship is not going to work. And I hear this often in the office, where a couple is going to say, a husband says, my wife starts lashing out, and when I tell her something, she doesn't want to hear my opinion. She just sees all men. There's something wrong with them, and makes me one of those men that she's had in her other previous relationships, and I don't like that, right? So as a wife, you want to pay attention to how you are treating your husband, and if you're lumping him with all the other men that you've had a not very good treatment from, you need to really pay attention to, are you bringing that into your marriage? Faith without God as a foundation. And if we don't have God in our hearts, and God, well, we can include him in our marriage, you're going to find yourself really having lots of difficulties, and it makes getting through rough spots makes it quite a challenge. If I, with faith, is I'm often able to really bring my troubles during our 24-hour, now we have those chapel here in San Diego, and I know they have them in Michigan and throughout the world. Actually, those adoration chapels are there, and the churches are available, and you can also just pray from home. You don't have to only go church or adoration, but it is important that God needs to be at the top of your marriage as a triangle. He needs to be at a pinnacle point, that God is a center of a marriage, and if he is the center, then your marriage will be built on a very solid rock. So marriage is not something you give up when the going gets tough. This is really what is so unfortunate, that there are comments going around, well, if you've fallen out of love with your husband, and if you're not feeling all the infatuation and the love that you had for your wife, move on. There are a lot of other, women and other men. That is actually very false, because if I use and look at my marriage where the going gets tough, I just dump that, guess what? That is going to follow you everywhere you go. So if you're in any other relationships and you're not dealing with it, you're going to find yourself going from one relationship to the next. It's actually more significant and meaningful when you are working through your problems during those issues. And you're going to become so much more stronger, and then the bond gets a lot stronger between the two of you as well. The third point, as I was saying again, significant, and these are all very important points that glue the relationship and the marriage, is friendship. If I know that my husband is my friend, I'm not going to be feeling like he's my enemy. I'm not going to worry, is he going to listen to me or not, right? So if you're close to each other and you feel so connected and bonded, and you, as buddies and friends, work on finding ways to work out the problem, you can actually, as friends and as partners, that friendship is going to help minimize you being angry and having these responses that are, you're lashing out at your husband, or you're having your selfish demands. You come from work and the wife is asking you to help her, and then you just come and say, I'm tired, I'm sorry, I don't want to be helping, I don't have any energy. You may take a break. There is nothing wrong with that, and I'll talk about that shortly. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm exhausted, I need a half hour, but at some point you need to also participate in helping out with whatever it is that your wife is needing, and vice versa, right? It's the same idea. If you're a wife who's outside working and you come home and your husband has been taking care of the children, you need to be doing the same thing. So there needs to be a cooperation where the two of you are really working those needs out. Defensiveness is a very big problem. And again, if you're friends, you're not going to find yourself kind of warding off and complaining and defending and blaming your husband or your wife and criticizing. You're going to be able to reduce that a lot more. This is also another very important point here, making a commitment to learning. These are, I'm going to be talking about simple principles that follow, and if you follow them and use them every day, they're going to help you improve your marriage a great deal. The first point is, the first principle is, think before you speak. You know, how many times you have watched people saying things just because they're angry, and then you stand there and cringe inside and say, wow, this is so embarrassing, and I feel so uncomfortable being in that environment. Or you yourself have done it, and all of us have made those mistakes. The key is not that you're not going to make a mistake. The key is, can you repair that mistake and make sure that you are owning and acknowledging that you've done that. So again, think before you speak. It is a very hard skill. And the reason it's hard, especially, this becomes very powerful and important, is when you are upset, when you are angry at your partner. I'll tell you, we all experience that, but it is very important to pay attention and be active in how you're responding. When one of you, oftentimes when we're upset, our thoughts are racing, and our reaction time also lessens. So, excuse me, instead of taking a time to think about how I'm going to be saying something, you'll find yourself quickly reacting, right? So you want to monitor when you get upset. This is something that you can work on. It takes lots of work to slow our thoughts down. And it is practice, practice, practice that makes us really much better and skillful at this. So you want to work on preventing the wrong word from slipping in. And if you do and say the wrong word, please don't hesitate to apologize and acknowledge it. So couple who know how to self-edit, and self-editing is going to be, well, I would like to say this to my husband right now, but I know it's not going to go very far, and I know it's going to hit him and pierce right into his heart, and it's going to hurt him so bad. But how helpful is that really, right? That charged emotion, it's going to be a momentary joy that I'm going to find, and then long-term damage. And then you've got to really repair, and then you're going to have to really gain that trust again and earn it. So discussing highly charged topics, especially, is where you're going to find yourself speaking without thinking. Especially it's going to be in the area of family, when you're talking about mother-in-law and daughter and your wife, or it is your mom, your wife's mom, and those topics are often very heated. So you want to be very careful to monitor how you're going to be speaking. Parenting issues are also another problem. So if one of you is criticizing or you're feeling uncomfortable how one is yelling at a child, it is really important, again, that you monitor your tone of voice and how you're going to be speaking and what comes out of your mouth, right? So finances is another area, and sexuality is another areas that often problems happen. There are usually couples are more inclined to reach a point of compromise when we recognize how we are responding, right? So again, monitoring that. The second principle is recognizing negative coping patterns. What do I mean by that? There are unhealthy behaviors and or bad habits, right? So you do these habits repeatedly. What happens? You make the conflict worse. So what are some of the examples here? As soon as your wife starts putting her voice up, you start shutting down and you withdraw. Okay, so the change will be is that you look at her and say, I need your voice low, please. I want to listen, but everything in me wants to run right now. Those are patterns. If you repeat withdrawing, your wife believes that the more she starts putting her voice up, that's when you're going to listen. You need to really explain to her that is not the case. Giving in, right? Okay, I'm going to say yes, 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 but I really mean no. So you want to change that and start expressing your feeling about, I'm not comfortable. I know if I say this right now, you're not going to like it, but I need you to listen to me right now, please. If this is not a good time, let's talk about it later. Bullying. This is bulldozing. Just because I feel it, I say it, whatever comes to my mind. I'm the man of the house. I'm the woman of the house. And this is the way it should be. That is wrong. Right? We need to really take charge. And bullying one another is not going to work at all. Again, it's a temporary gratification. You get to feel good about it. But long term, it's really quite hard to repair and fix that problem. Repeating these bad habits during a conflict, what happens when you're repeating them? It prevents you from getting anywhere new. You're going to find yourself in that maze, in that rat race that you're not going anywhere beyond, and you'll find yourself really miserable as a husband or as a wife, and you're going to find yourself not wanting to come home, and there's not much exciting to be at home because there are problems that are going to happen. You come home and she'll say, oh, I'm tired, the kids are really wearing me down, and I don't want to listen to all of that. Again, if you're aware of your patterns, of these patterns that we're talking about, you can change them and start adopting new methods for dealing with conflicts, right? Start managing one issue at a time, once a week. And if you find yourself slipping into your old habits and patterns, there is nothing wrong again with acknowledging and taking responsibility. Half of the battle is being aware. And if you're aware of your negative habits and you watch when you start escalating the situation and things start getting heated and you start really repairing quickly, right? And you start saying, I'm sorry, let me take that back. This was wrong. That is going to help the relationship. So again, those negative patterns, yes, they're embedded, but there is definitely hope if you are willing to change them. The third principle is recognizing what you are fighting about. Majority of time, right, you're arguing over small, stupid, petty stuff, things that are really not the problem. Kind of, for example, you'll pick on dishes, but there's really an underlying theme here, a problem that you are not addressing. It's either you're needing your husband to help you with helping you with the kids, getting them ready to bed, or helping you with making food, or helping you with something else, but you start picking on dishes, right? It is really a bigger problem. Or you as a husband, you're having problems at work, and your boss did something, or your clients, or your secretary, or some problems you had, and then you found yourself coming home, you couldn't really address that issue, and now you're taking it out on your wife, right? So we want to be careful to know what is the issue, right? What do I need to do? What is the problem that I need to address, right? Sometimes you're going to find yourself on edge, and the way you know you're on edge, as soon as your wife starts saying something, you're kind of coming back attacking her. That is a time where you need to really monitor and decide to kind of check in and say, why am I mad? Why am I lashing out at my wife? Why am I responding to her this way? She hasn't done a thing. I just came home. And if it was usually, again, I'm carrying it from work. I'm carrying it from something happened at the store that a cashier treated me badly, and now I'm bringing it home. So again, be careful when you start finding yourself arguing. Please understand what is the point that you're trying to address here. So again, if you're unhappy about something, start identifying what is the problem. If it is paying bills and you don't have a lot of money in the bank and you're taking out your problem on your wife with some other issues, and you need to really address that. So it is your responsibility as a husband or as a wife to address it. This is a fourth principle. You want to address behaviors. And I see this again often in the office when I'm counseling couples. Oftentimes, the husband is really angry and he's not happy about how his wife treats him in front of her mom, and she complains and kind of shares all of the problems. And so what he'll say is, you're so stupid, you don't hear my problem. The problem with that is you're attacking her personality. The difference will be is when I am with you going to your mom's house, I need you to please not start complaining about me. I need that behavior to stop. I don't like it that you're addressing issues and talking badly about me in front of your family. I need that behavior to stop. There is nothing wrong with saying that. Again, it is something that your wife could change. But if you start addressing her by "you're so stupid," or you call her names, that is not going to help her, right? You're so lazy. I've told you this hundreds of times, and this is now yet one more time. And again, telling your husband, for example, that you are upset that he is not helping you with finding an employee and he's working long hours. There is nothing wrong with that. Instead of calling him lazy and addressing the issue, there he will understand what the problem is. I'm really feeling alone, and I need you to find an employee so he can be home more. I don't feel like I'm married to you. That is, again, a different thing than saying you are so careless. You don't care about us. That is attacking him as a person. Criticizing your spouse, that, again, what will happen when you're criticizing and attacking his personhood, he's going to start being defensive. and he's going to withdraw a lot more. And so what we want to do again, we want to work on being more positive and addressing our issues. As you address the behavior that you want to see change, what will happen is there's going to be a much more willingness on the part of a husband or your wife to change when you're complaining and addressing a behavior than addressing and attacking her personality. The fifth principle is pay attention to how your spouse cools off. Why is this point important? Is we all need, as we get to know each other, especially during conflicts, pay attention to what your wife really needs. Does she need to go for a walk? Does she need to talk to somebody? Obviously, it's not going to be griping and bad-mouthing you, but just to get some of her energy out, if she needs that, you need to allow for that. If your husband is needing some space to cool off and he needs to, again, to watch his program for about 10, 20 minutes or 30, there is nothing wrong with that. This space is a very invaluable tool to really build a healthy marriage. Does your, again, husband need 1 hour alone? And again, as long as you're communicating it, this is really important that you are addressing these issues by saying, I need time, and understanding that that time is valuable. You're not just avoiding to get to each other. Again, does your wife need to go to a gym and start addressing, right, her problem by coping with some exercise and then coming back addressing it? Nothing wrong with that. Some people also get cleared up and feel better after a good night's sleep, after they nap maybe for a short time. There is nothing wrong with that. All we're saying is understand each other's habits, and if we understand each other's habits, that's going to make a tremendous difference. The other principle, number 6, don't go to bed angry, because you're going to wake up in the morning feeling just angry. So if you go to bed and you're feeling like, okay, I'm just going to go to bed, and you're lashed out on your wife and you're going to sleep, what happens the next morning? You're going to wake up with that same attitude. And the same thing for you, wife, of course. You wake up in the morning, you're going to find that the issue just gets bigger, really. So again, what we need to do is to deal with issues immediately, not keep them where we're kind of dragging them on and we never go back and address them. They need to be really addressed. They cannot be neglected where you leave them on for a month or however long, and now my wife forgot or my husband forgot. You need to address them. After a fight, if you've had a fight, and let's say you don't have time to address it, you've already said, let's talk about it tomorrow morning, first thing, because right now I'm exhausted. Please, please make it a point after a fight to persist to give your wife, or you wife, you give your husband don't give him a cold shoulder, and don't withhold affection. Just really make an attempt, as hard as it may be, even if it feels so difficult to you. Learn over and over again, practicing saying goodnight and giving your spouse as you do that goodnight kiss. So you will be amazed how quickly this gesture, this kind of movement, this behavior will melt away anger. And you'll find in the morning when you're addressing the issue, it's not going to be as hard. You definitely need to address the issue in the morning, but you will find it the animosity is gone, and that anger at each other is not going to be the same. The 7th principle is fight fairly. What does that mean, right? So we want to argue, and again, arguing in a healthy manner is it's expressing your feelings, not shouting. And again, it's a very bad idea when you're name calling and when you're criticizing one another is not going to help the marriage in any way. 96% of couples who fight dirty will be divorcing in 10 years. This is research. This is not my information. And I mentioned that last time. So it's really important. If you've got those patterns and habits, please get to the professional help or apply what we're teaching here. This comes according, again, to a research that was done in Utah. And this comes, it came as a surprise to even the researcher. No one wants to be called stupid. No one wants to be called a jerk. No one wants to have, really be labeled as lazy. right? Mistakes are inevitable. We all make mistakes. There's nothing wrong. Give each other a chance. Forgive each other as much as possible. You start calling each other careless. You should do things this way, and you become aggravated, and you don't give your husband or wife any chance to make mistakes. What happens? That ends up again leading to divorce. So we want to not resort to shouting just because you think shouting is the only way that your wife is going to be able to hear you. The other principle, which is number 8, is arguing in private. This is a really big deal. I just gave that example earlier where we've all experienced husbands and wives fighting in front of others, and some of us have done it as well, but we want to, again, not repeat that. So conflicts can arise at any time, at a party, in the middle of a restaurant, even at the grocery store with your wife. Rather than lashing out in public, please save it when the two of you are alone. Fighting in public, whether it is in front of friends, whether it's in front of strangers, in front of family, it is detrimental to the healthy union between you and your wife, and it is quite an embarrassment for the people around you. Couples who fight in front of others, what happens? Alienate and isolate people from them. Don't be surprised if people decide to not want to be around you. Don't be surprised that if they don't invite you and they don't want to really have you with them, because that is really what this behavior leads to. So you may be fuming, but still wait until you are in private to address the issue, please. It is respectful of your marriage and the people around you, and this is really important. Last principle is holding a state of union. What does that mean? Is holding meetings every once in a while, sit down together and start speaking with your spouse about how are you feeling about things in our marriage, how are the kids, how are we doing financially, sexually, intimately. All of that needs to be addressed. And they found that the more we address these issues, the more you're going to be able to find a solution for them. And so those meetings can be very quick. They don't have to be hours. You can sit for a few minutes every week and just talk about things. And this really allows and kind of helps the marriage, again, bond and get you closer. And then you grow more. The problems start also dissipating a lot more. And it starts reducing your fights, because then your marriage is happier and healthier. If you are struggling to face conflicts in your marriage, please focus on the long term, the wellness of being married in your relationships, right? Learn to express your feelings. Start addressing, I'm angry, I feel scared. Start stating your needs. I need some time off, please. I need a break from kids. I need some time in the morning where I don't want to have to make breakfast. There is nothing wrong with stating your needs. It is important that these issues are expressed again, and this allows and helps your intimacy, and it strengthens your relationship. Try discussing conflicts using basic fundamental communication patterns, and some of these are clarify content. What does that mean? Be genuine to understand. Don't just sit there and go, okay, tell me what you want quickly. That is not going to help the relationship and the conflict. Ask questions to avoid assumptions. Place as much as you can. Empathy is a key to understanding. Put yourself in your wife's shoes. Put yourself in your husband's shoes. Focus on understanding feelings, not words. Opinions, not facts. Reflecting your feelings, right? So summarize what you're hearing. Your husband is angry, and reflect his feelings. Put yourself in his shoes. Let him know, I could see how angry you are at me. I'd probably be feeling the same way. I'm so sorry. Apologize. I want to acknowledge that was rude of me. I don't want to do that again. There are 4 safety needs that are also important that will help conversation, especially during fights. Time. Be careful that you're not losing control of time. This may cause a lot of anxiety. When you start arguing, make sure you're looking at time and addressing it, and not taking on hours, 2 hours later. Approval. If I know my husband is approving of me and who I am, I'm going to feel safer and I can talk more freely. Loyalty. This is really important to stay consistent and predictable as husband and wife. Have a routine where you make the relationship very important, where you don't lose control, that you're constantly monitoring. Have a quality time. Decision making needs to be quality. Resolving conflicts requires loving confrontation. So what does that mean again? We need to really make sure that we're confronting with grace. And tactfulness requires wisdom, patience, and humility. So here are a few helpful tips that I'd like you to pay attention to. Check your motivation. When you're now addressing a problem, why are you addressing it? Are your words going to hurt? Are they going to be building? Are they going to be causing healing, wholeness to the marriage, oneness? Are they going to further isolation? Are they going to create more problems? Please check your attitude. Loving confrontation says, I care about you, I love you, I respect you, I want you to respect me. I want to know how you feel. This is what loving confrontation does. Check the circumstances. Okay, it is early in the morning, he's not in the mood for a talk, not a good time to confront. Timing, it is really, he's exhausted, I'm exhausted. Location, we're in a restaurant, wrong timing. Check to see what other pressures is your husband or your wife in. Be sensitive to each other, please. Listen to your spouse. Seek to understand before you jump into giving any advice. Don't give any advice unless your husband is asking you for it or your wife is asking. Stick to one issue at a time during your discussion, right? So don't bring many issues. Focus on the problem rather on the person, as we've been saying. Focus on facts rather than judging motives, right? Because oftentimes we'll say, oh, I know you didn't really want me to go. You have no idea about that. You want to really more focus on, this is a problem for me, I cannot do it, this is what time I can do this work that you've asked me. Focus on understanding each other. The goal of stable marriage is to reduce the amount of negativity, the criticism, shouting. Use talking as the main tool for dealing with the problem. Silent treatment is really a problem. Acting out your anger, those are all bad habits and patterns that we've been talking about. Punishing one another and retaliating and not doing what your husband is wanting you to do. You told him that I'm going to do it, and you have this passive aggression that you're not going to do what you've said you will do. These approaches, what they do is they represent more really a profound disrespect for one another. And so instead of, again, talking over problems, you want to make sure that you're using a manner that is really respectful. This way, talking can lead more to greater understanding and closeness. So as we now have come to the end of our program, I'm going to bring in some reflections, and we'll do some prayer and then a story, and then we'll end. Reflection from An Instrument of Your Peace poem by Helen Rice. The title is The Better You Know God, the Better You Will Feel. For to learn more about Him and discover He is real can wholly, completely, and miraculously change, reshape, and remake, and then rearrange your whatever is going on in your life and happy life, a drift on the sea of sin, sick, and strive. But when you once know the man of goodwill, He will calm your life and say, peace, be still. So open your heart's door and let Christ come in, and He will give you new life and free you from sin. And there is no joy that can ever compare with the joy of knowing that you are in God's care. The doors were shut, but Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. This is from John 20, verse 26. So I'm pleading with you to turn to God with your problems of marriage, professional help. All of that is going to help you and guide you. Now, a story from a meditation by Father Basil Salim Yildu, 1 hour from your time. There was a young boy, age 10, who lived with his father, of course, and who loved him a lot, but had no time to spend with him. This father was very busy and had a lot of work to do in his company. Even when the father would come home, he continued his work with his customers on the phone, and he would be really meeting with these people outside of his work, and so his work consumed a lot of his life. He had no time to rest, no time to visit with his family, and see his children as well, and spend quality time with friends and family. So what this young boy this son, what he did is he requested from his father to spend time with him and play. His father said to him, "Son, you know how busy I am, and my time is very valuable. Do you know? Every hour I make $100. Please let me finish my work." The young boy left feeling very sad. After 1 week, the young boy asked his father to give him $10. He gave him the money without asking what he needed for it. Well, now the son came back again the second day. And again, he said to his dad, "Please, Dad, give me $10. Well, the father gave him the money. The third day, the same thing the son is repeating. "Please give me $10. Well, now the father became very mad and asked him, "What are you doing with this money?" His son answered him by saying, "I am accumulating $100, so Dad, that I can pay you for this hour so you can spend time with me." We live in times where we are controlled by money. We forget that we work to live, not live to work. We need to not waste our times accumulating wealth and forgetting our time with family and God. I hope that this story would also help you to apply that as much as possible to your marriage and your wife and your husband, to really make sure that you're spending that quality time together as well. Closing prayer taken from Priest of Sacred Heart Monastery Daily Prayer, a prayer for healing. Lord, you invite all who are burdened to come to you. We place before you all married couples in our community and those preparing for marriage. Allow your healing hand to heal us, Lord. Touch our souls with your compassion for others. Touch our hearts with your courage and infinite love for all. Touch our minds with your wisdom, that our mouths may always proclaim your praise. Teach us to reach out to you in our need, and help us to lead others to you by our example. Most loving heart of Jesus, bring us health in body and spirit, that we may serve you with all our hearts and all of our strengths. Touch us gently, this life which you have created now and forever. Amen. In conclusion, I pray that I provided you with sufficient information. I want to thank you for watching us, this program on Facebook, and for listening on Chaldean Radio app. I hope you will become a regular viewer of this program on Facebook and a regular listener on Chaldean Radio app. I will meet with you again in 2 weeks. So remember that this program will be repeated on Facebook next week at 7 to 8, and it will be replayed tomorrow, 6:30 our time in San Diego, and I know it's 9:30 in Michigan, Detroit. And then on Saturday on Chaldean Radio app, it will be replayed at 2 o'clock, again our time, but 5 p.m. on Chaldean Radio app, Saturday Detroit time. I would really appreciate it if you can let your friends and relatives know about this program. And our goal with doing this program is really to educate the community, and my hope is to really bring marriages closer, and to bring you closer to your spouses, and bring you closer also to God, because that is really the essence of life. Otherwise, as married couples, without having God and without being close to each other, you'll find yourself really empty and not fulfilled and not satisfied. And again, I want to go back to the question that kind of came up, or the comment that was mentioned last week, kind of 2 weeks ago, is to please monitor any comments or feedback that you place on Facebook. It is definitely public, and I hope and pray that my answer was sufficient and it really gave you some clarity, and then the information I presented today is helpful, that you will be able to apply some of this information into kind of your relationship, and especially when you're finding yourself in a conflict. I want to also give a very special thanks to all of you who are supporting and contributing to the Chaldean radio. I want to encourage you to please go to Facebook, and there is an area where it says donate, and press the button there and follow the instructions and see if you can donate that way. Also, as I said earlier, this program is also streamed live on YouTube, and if you go and if you have relatives that don't have Facebook, they can also go on YouTube and click on Chaldean TV, and they'll be able to also watch and view this via, again, YouTube. So I want to really thank you again, and I hope that you will become a regular listener to help us bring programs like this to support the community. I will make sure again to bring different topics, and my hope is for the future that I will be bringing in more topics that are also relevant and of need to our community. The program again is going to be in 2 weeks, and it will be in Arabic, and the subject will be how to deal with in-laws, and especially mother-in-law and daughter-in-laws. And so I will again do my best to see how I can answer your questions and comments, and I will do my best to really see how I can be helpful. Feel free again to share your feedback on Facebook, and your comments are greatly appreciated. This program is for you, and I want to thank you for taking this time to listen to it. So may God richly bless you. My name again is Bernadette, and I care for you a lot. Thank you.